Any views expressed in this film are those of the artists, recorded as part of the Future is Loading exhibition.
What do you believe the greatest threat to marginalised creatives is presently? What do you think the greatest opportunity might be?
I think the greatest threat is the art world. I think if you're a marginalised creative, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder for a marginalised creator to succeed and to persevere. And I think things are slowly changing, but still, the art scene is so London centric, and art bubbles are so inaccessible to so many people. And I think one positive thing which counteracts this is digital worlds. I think mainly Instagram at the moment, but in some ways these digital spaces break them boundaries, especially within regional art scenes and things being really London centric.
I think in the scheme of things, during everything what's happening right now, I think there's a risk of people on the margins being further pushed into the margins because we're not seen as priority. I think the greatest opportunity is a conversation around equality right now, which is a brilliant thing, and that needs to continue.
The art world is not an inclusive space, even when we are not dealing with everything that's happening right now in terms of accessibility to physical spaces being limited and everything like that. I think that it could be very difficult to advocate for inclusion when the art space is sort of adapting to non-physical spaces poorly and not really taking an initiative to use this as a time to be more inclusive and be more representative. But again, to answer the second part of that question, I think it's like an interesting sort of double-edged sword, I guess you could say, where now there is sort of a revolutionary thing happening, or there's a potential for a revolutionary thing to happen, where art exhibition, art representation, art experience is not limited to the physical space. And that, just like it can be very exclusive, also really opens the door for inclusivity, because this type of curation that can happen, the way that you can just do things online, organize things online, bring people together online, speaks to a sort of an inclusive agenda. Like it is much more easy to facilitate when you're not sort of like operating within the institution, operating within like four walls that can be inaccessible, that can be able-bodied, that can be prejudiced, that can be, have, violent histories, all of that. Like when you step away from the institution that's grounded into the earth, that is like a physical space that like you must enter, I think it is like very radical. And I think we've seen that through history in many ways. Like the internet has changed so many things in the way that access becomes so much more abstract and achievable. So I think now it's like a tipping point. It's the time for huge efforts to be made for accessibility and inclusion to become more normalized in an online format, because it could very easily become a thing where like blue chip galleries continue to be at the center of sort of attention, and they are continuing to represent the same artists that they've been representing physically. They just are doing it remotely now. So it's like it's time for an initiative to be taken. So it's like the door was very, very shut before, and you had to like wedge it open roughly and like with a lot of force. Now there's like a bigger crack, so it's like time to elbow in, create space on a platform where there is space for everyone, because the internet doesn't have a square footage. So
you can view the Future is Loading exhibition on the Shape Instagram and on our website www.shapearts.org.uk.